Good day, we are the Week 16 reporter for the Prof Ed 100, the Child, Adolescents, Learner, and Learning Principles. So I would like to introduce myself. I am Alni Mercado Lunesto, your first reporter in this topic. So our report is all about learning principles and theories. So our report consists of three parts. So first is nature of learning. Second is factors that contribute to learning. And the third is laws of learning. So before that, let us know the elements of learning. So first, motivation, reinforcement, retention, and transference. So what is motivation? So motivation is the first fundamental concept you must understand. So you as a learner will not gonna learn if you don't feel motivated. So am I right? Yes, of course, I am right because we really need to feel motivated in order to do something. So, therefore, we really need motivation in our life. So, second is reinforcement. So, reinforcement, it allows the learner to learn through trial and error and getting feedback from those mistakes through action and experiences. So the third one is the retention. So learning retention is the process of absorbing information then remembering it. So example, like you are studying for the exam for tomorrow, the information that you gather in this evening will stay in the morning and you can use it to your exam. So from a short-term memory to a long-term memory. And the next one or the last one is the transference. So it is the ability to apply knowledge learned in one context to a new context. So it is like transferring of learning. So example, if you learn something new today, the knowledge that you gain from that experience, you will use that to solve a problem in future aspects. So that is the example of the ability to apply knowledge that you learn in one context to a new context. So that is the element of learning, the motivation, reinforcement, retention, and the transference. So now it's the time to know the meaning in educational point of view and psychological point of view. So here in educational point of view and learning, the process of modification of behavior is termed as learning. So it is the phrase used to describe the process of changing behavior or example, level of knowledge or attitude, and etc. So here in psychological point of view of learning, so learning implies making the most appropriate response to stimulus. So example, when teaching a kid to distinguish the color yellow from two choices, the child is rewarded with a piece of candy for selecting the color yellow. So, in terms of stimulus control, the probability of the child of choosing the color yellow rises. Why? Because it has been previously reinforced during the training. So, it is more like on how you act in a situation and how you solve the problem. So, more on explanation like that. So now, let us know the different definition of learning by these philosophers. So, first, learning is not acquiring knowledge or skills by mere mechanical repetition. So, that is according to Skinner. So, learning is not about repeating things to gain information or skills. So, second, learning is the process by which an organism, in satisfying its motivation, adopts and adjusts its behavior in order to overcome obstacles or barriers. So, it is according to Kingley and Gray. So, in order to satisfy its motivation, an organism adopts and modifies its behavior in order to get past barriers concepts. So, this process is known as learning. And the third one is learning is shown by a change in behavior as a result of experience. So, that is according to J.P. Guilford. So, a shift in behavior following experience serves as evidence of the learning. So the fourth one is by Cronbrock. So learning is shown by a change in behavior as a result of experiences. So it is the same theories by J.P. Guilford. So the fifth one is learning is a modification of both behavior and the way of perceiving it. So learning involves changing one's conduct as well as one's perception. And the last one is according to E.C. Tolman. So learning is the name given to a small number of demonstrable relationship factors and behavioral changes. So the term learning refers to a select group of behavioral shifts and circumstances with observable relationships. And now, let us know the nature of learning. So, learning occupies a very important place in our life. So, learning holds a very significant part in our lives. So, second is, learning is the process of change, which enables an organism itself to the environment. It is therefore a process of development and growth, and it is characterized by flexibility because the individual has to adapt itself constantly to the circumstances of the environment. So the third one is learning produces change in behavior. So behavior changes as a result of learning. So as always. So the fourth one is learning is often defined as the modification of behavior. So modifying behavior is a common definition of learning. And the fifth one is learning involves problem solving. It helps to understand and discover relations between different content and situations. So, learning entails solving problems. So, it aids in comprehension and the discovery of connection between various elements of a situation. The sixth one is learning is an automatic process. So, learning happens automatically. And the last one, it takes place when the child becomes active. So, when the kids start moving around, it happens and it will learn. And now, let us define the importance of learning. So, learning creates motivation to learn or gain something. So, learning inspires a desire to learn or acquire knowledge. Second, it develops our knowledge. So, it advances our understanding. So, the third one is it creates our curiosity to know something. So, it captivates our desire to learn new things. And the fourth one is it creates the ability to the sense of discrimination, ability to use symbols. So yes. And the last one is learning helps to solve any problem in one's life. So, which means a problem in life can be resolved with the aid of learning. So, that would be all, and I will pass the next discussion to the next reporter. Thank you so much for listening, and again, I am Alni Mercado Lonesto, your first reporter.
Good day, sir. Good day, everyone. So, I am the next reporter. My name is Lim Glinami from BE 1B ASCA Trinto Campus. And now on, before I proceed my assigned report, I would like to introduce first our professor, Sir Rodilo In Lungay Jr. Sir, good day, sir. And now on, let's proceed the next topic that we are going to discuss is the learning principles and theories. So the characteristic of learning is first we have learning is a continuous change in behavior. So yes, totally agree because when we are learning something or while we are learning and experiencing new to us, so our behavior will definitely change, right? So learning involves change may be good or bad, so it depends on our environment or experiences. So habang natututo tayo, nag-grow din ang ating kaisipan at sarili. Dahil dito, nagbabago din ang ating behavior, right? So next is we proceed. The next is it is a lifelong process. So it is a lifelong process because this refers to the process of gaining knowledge and learning new skills throughout your life. So learning is a lifelong process because while we are growing, we need to learn something in life, di ba? It is a long process kasi we need to advance in life para di tayo mapag-iwanan ng panahon, right? So we need to continue to learn and enhance ourselves for us to gain improvement and knowledge to what is happening in our life, right? So next is learning is physically, mentally, and cognitively attached with the whole of the person. So ito naman, it simplify mean that a person must have this para matuto ng maayos and para mabilis mag-improve ang isang tao while learning. Kasi kung wala ang isa, mahihirapan ang isang tao na matuto or else maligaw siya ng landas, right? So next is the last one is learning bring change in the discipline of behavior. So yes, learning bring change in the discipline of behavior of a person because while learning and gaining experience, magbabago ang ating discipline, right? So for example, we are attached to bad people. We learn something bad from them because we are living in a bad people. So our discipline will also change. So another is when we are living in a good environment. So we learn something from them and bring change to our discipline. So we will have a good behavior, right? So learning bring change in the discipline of behavior through experience and knowledge that we develop, right? So now is we proceed. The next is principles of learning. So we have this one. So the readiness. So readiness implies the degree of concentration and eagerness. So since learning is an active process, students must have adequate rest, health, and physical ability. So basic needs of students must be satisfied before they are ready or capable of learning. So the student must be ready to their self when learning with an interest and concentration, and can handle them or face the situation that can affect their learning. So next is exercise. So exercise, the principle of affect is based on the emotional reaction of the student. So when we say exercise, so it has something to do with motivation. So exercise, the learning of the student the learning of the students to boost their emotional interest in learning. So every time practice occurs, learning continues. So this includes students to recall, review, and summary, and manual drill and physical application. No? So all of this serves to create learning habits. So the instructor or the teacher must repeat important items of subject matter at reasonable intervals and provide opportunities for for students to practice while making sure that this process is directed toward a goal, right? So the next is effect. So the principal effect is based in the emotional reaction of the student. So effect means that every learning experience should contain elements that leaves the students with some good feelings. So students' chance of success is definitely increased if the learning experience is enjoyable or satisfaction. So madali matuto or maintindihan ng estudyante ang topic or subject kung ito ay naituro ng maayos. So the next is we have a primacy. So primacy, the state of being first of 10 creates a strong, almost unshakable expression. So primacy in learning means the instructor must present subject matter in a logical order. So step by step, making sure that the students have already learned the preceding step, right? So if the task is learned in isolation, if it is not initially applied to the overall performance, or if it must be relearned, so the process can be confusing and time consuming, right? So preparing and following a lesson plan ay napapadali sa paghatid ng paksa ng tama in the very first time or simula pa lang, right? So the next one is recency. So recency, the principle of recency states that things must recently learners are best remembered. So recency. So the principle of recency states that that thing must recently learned are best remembered. So means that madali maisaulo or di makakalimutan ang bagong natutunan. So the student will easy to learn and remember things kung ito ay palagi na ituro sa kanila, pero kung naalis at hindi na ito na ituturo sa kanila, madali nila itong makalimutan at mas mahirap nila itong matandaan. So that's the recency. So the next is intensity. So intensity, the principle of intensity implies that a student will learn the real thing than from a substitute. So the more intense the material taught, so the more likely it will be retained or continue. So the principle of intensity implies that a student will learn more from the real thing from a substitute. So mas madali matuto ang mga estudyante if the lesson is clear or exciting learning experience teaches more than a boring experience, right? So that's the intensity. So the next is requirements. So pag sinabi natin requirements, the law of requirements states that we must have something of obtain or do something. So the law of requirement states that we must have something to obtain or to do something. So it can be an ability, skill, instrument, or anything that may help us to learn or gain something. So mas madali matuto ang estudyante kung may material na pinipresent sa pagtuturo. So for example sa lecture, kung may PowerPoint or kung may PowerPoint yung instructor or the teacher, when discussing the lesson, mas madali maintindihan ng mga estudyante, ng mga bata, yung lesson. Right? So next is we have a freedom. So pag sinabi nating freedom, so since learning is an active process, so students must have freedom. So we have freedom of choice, freedom of action, freedom to bear the result of action. So these are the three great freedoms that constitute personal responsibility. Right? If like dito, if no freedom is granted, students may have little interest in learning. So means that na dapat we will not force, hindi natin i-force ang mga estudyante sa mga tao, or hindi natin sila i-force sa mga gusto nilang gawin para matuto. Right? Dapat bigyan sila ng freedom kung ano ang way or gusto nila para matuto. Right? So because nga if we force the student sa mga bata, hindi nila gusto, so they will lose interest in learning. Right? So we have this freedom of choice. So pag sinabi nating freedom, when we talk about freedom of choice, so it is all about what you want, what you desire, or what you prefer. Sa tingin mo ay nakakabuti sa iyo or sa sarili mo. So freedom of choice represents something or more fundamental than power. So it represents the right of the individual person to be a free agent in his interhuman relationship, to make his own decision, to be free from the authority of others, and to be able to choose how he wishes to learn, or free from his way of learning. So freedom of choice means that the person is able to choose his own course of action, or choose his own way without the help or guidance of others. Right? So dapat is ang mga estudyante, ang mga student is we have a freedom of choice. Right? So the next is and of course when we see freedom of actions naman, next is freedom of action. Ito naman yung what do you want, or what your step to learn, what's your way of effort to learn. So freedom of action means that if a student wants to learn, so he or she will do an act that will benefit him, her, by expressing it with his own action. Right? So gagawin ng estudyante ang makakaya niya para matuto. That's we called as freedom of action. So the next is, the last one is freedom of bear result of action. So pag sinabi nating freedom of bear result of actions means this is the freedom of students to endure or carry the weight of result of his action. So it is simplifying that if a student do something, he is responsible for the action that what he did. So malaya na gagawin ng isang estudyante ang gusto niya, pero pag may nangyayari, it will be his responsibility sa mga ginagawa niya. Right? So in learning, in the students wants to learn, the student need to carry on, or or to endure the things that we will do para siya ay matuto, no? So the students the students must be have the freedom of choice, freedom of action, freedom of the result of actions, no? So uh so that's all for today, and thank you. And I hope you learned something about my topic, and the next topic I the next report will be continue. So God bless and thank you.
There are seven important factors that contribute to learning. First is intellectual factors, next is learning factors, physical factors, mental factors, emotional and social factors, teacher's personality, and the last is environmental factors. Intellectual factor. The term intellectual refers to the individual mental level. Success in school is generally closely related to the level of the intellect of the learner. Learners with low intelligence often encountered serious difficulty in mastering schoolwork. Sometimes pupils do not learn because of special intellectual disabilities. Individual possesses different kinds of intelligence. Knowledge of the nature of the pupil's intellect is of considerable value in diagnosing and guiding the learner in his learning. Ang kaning intellectual factor, isa na siya ka-importante kay dili man tatanan pareha og panghuna-huna. So, kibali, ikaw as a teacher, kung elementary ang imong gitudloan, dapat kabalo ka mo patas sa imong role. Dili porket nga bright to, kadto na pod ang imong fokusan. Kay naman gyud mga tao nga late na develop ang ilahang kuan. Late mo develop ang ilahang brain. So, labi na sa mga bata kay nay mga bata nga dugay kasabot, napoy bata nga igtudloan nimo dali ra makasabot. So matud pa sa ingon kanina, student possesses different kinds of intelligence. Some might be good in math and science but bad in language arts. So dili tanan estudyante bright og English. Napoy mga estudyante nga hina sila sa English pero bright sila sa math. Napoy estudyante nga bright sila og science pero hina kayo sila sa English. Ikaduha is learning factors. Factors owing the lack of mastery of what has been taught, faulty methods of work or study, and narrowness of experimental background may affect the learning process of any pupil. Kanang dugay siya kasabot, di ba nga nataw sa hay kanang siguro sa stress, kanang daghan kay problema, kanang daghan kay gipanghuna-huna nga inigtudloan ka kay kanang mura kag permi lutang nang dili wa kay nasabtan na minaw tuod ka pero way nasabtan wala na butang sa imong hunahuna kung unsa ta ibut pasabot.
Good day, sir, and good day, everyone. My name is Lim Glinami from BE 1B Aska Trinto Campus. And I am the reporter, no? And before I proceed my assigned report, I would like to introduce first our professor, Sir Rodilo Inlongay Jr. Sir, good day, sir. And so now let's proceed. The next topic that we are going to discuss is all about the physical factors. So what is physical factors? So physical factors such as health, physical development, nutrition, visual and physical defects, and glandular abnormality affects pupils' learning. So this is generally recognized that ill health retards physical and motor development, and malnutrition interfere with learning and physical growth. So this is physical factors such as physical defects and glandular abnormality or or other physical factors ay nakakaapekto sa pag-aaral ng mga mag-aaral because they are seriously handicapy or mahirapan sila in developing skills such as reading and spelling, right? So, it has been demonstrated, no, that various glands and international secretion, such as the thyroid and pituitary glands, affects behavior. So, in this case, the health of the learner will be likely affect their ability to learn and their power to concentrate in learning. So the next is, it is generally accepted that ill health retards physical and motor development, and malnutrition interfere with learning and physical growth. So, this means naman that if a child is malnourished, kung malnourished daw, their intelligence will be significantly lower than sa mga normal na bata. And they are the most common cause of absenteeism and unsatisfactory in school. So language retardation, lower IQ, and poorer school performance. So these are the effect of being a malnourished child. So furthermore, their physical growth naman ay also are affected. They will experience stunted growth. So, pag sinabi nating stunted growth, means na hindi tataas ang timbang at mawalan sila ng height. Right? So, now is we proceed the mental factor. So, mental factor, attitudes fall under mental factors. Attitudes are made up of organic and kinesthetic elements. So when we see kinesthetic elements, is referring to learning, achieving using experience and practices. So in other words, kinesthetic students should go through experience to learn something. So the students that passes this type of intelligence are found to move and active, so quick in learning physical skills and found to think while moving. So ibig sabihin, madali sila matuto pag sinubukan nila gawin ang isang bagay, right? So the next is attitude play a larger part in mental organization and general behavior of the individual. So this means that an attitude can be defined as predisposition to respond in a favorable or unfavorable way to objects or persons in one environment, no? So when we like or dislike something, so we are in affecting expressing our attitudes towards the person or object. So no, attitudes are also important, di ba? No? Important siya sa development of personality. So for example of this is the interest, no? Cheerfulness, the affection, open-mindedness, and the last one is the loyalty, no? Attitudes, no? Ang attitudes exist as a stimulating effect upon the rate of learning and teaching upon of the progress in school, right? So now is we proceed the emotional and social factors. So emotional social factors such as instinct and emotion, and social factors such as cooperation and rivalry are directly related to a complex psychology of motivation. And another, the various response of the individual to various kinds of stimuli are determined by a wide variety of emotional tendencies of an individual. So these emotional and social factors influence the learning of the student, right? So some of these innate tendencies are constructive and other are harmful. So for some reason of a pupil may have developed or dislike for some subject because he may will to see its value or di niya makikita ang halaga into this is caused by emotional factors, right? Di niya makikita ang halaga nito. So, this is caused by emotional factors, right? So, this dislike result in a bad emotional state. So, some pupils are in a continuing state of unhappiness because of their fear of being victims of the disapproval of their teachers and classmates. And this is an unwholesome attitude or hindi mabuting sa loobin ay nakaka-apekto sa learning process sa isang malaking antas. Right? So the next one is now let's proceed the motivation to learn. So first and foremost, motivation is an orientation, orientation towards a learning. So therefore, it impacts how likely a student is either to give up or push forward, and how truthful their reflection on their learning will be. So the deeper the motivation for pursuing an activity, so the more likely the student will not accept easy answers to complex questions. So in short, intrinsic motivation fosters strong and flexible critical skills, critical thinking skills, no. So on the other hand, a motivation and purely extrinsic motivation lead to low interest and academic percentage. So now if we have two types of motivation to learn. So these are the intrinsic and extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. So first we have extrinsic. So intrinsic motivation is when we are motivated to perform a behavior or engage in an activity because we want to earn a reward or avoid punishment. So you will engage in behavior not because you enjoy it or because you find it satisfying, but rather than because you expected to get something, no? You get something in return or avoid something unpleasant. So that's the extrinsic. So now the under of extrinsic motivation. So we have operant conditioning and social cognition. So pag sinabi nating operant conditioning, this is under of extrinsic motivation because operant conditioning is a form of behavior modification that use rewards or punishment, no? Reward or punishment to increase or decrease the likelihood that that specific behavior will recur. Another one is the next is social cognition. So pag sinabi natin social cognition is also under the extrinsic motivation because in social cognition, students will learn by observing others. That means you are getting something in return. So now we proceed the intrinsic naman tayo. So pag sinabi nating intrinsic motivation is when you engage in a behavior because you find it rewarding. So you are performing an activity. You are performing an activity for its own sake rather than from the desire for some internal reward. No. So the behavior itself, its own reward. For example, no. For example, is the participating, no, participating in a sport because you find the activity enjoyable, right? So that's the intrinsic, no. So under this intrinsic is we have cognition, ay social cognition, no. Pag sinabi nating social cognition, under gihapon siya sa intrinsic, no. This is also under the intrinsic motivation because you are performing an action to get something, right? So another one is the belong of the intrinsic motivation is the cognition. So cognition is under the intrinsic motivation because cognition is the process of acquiring and understanding knowledge through our thoughts, no, through our thoughts, experiences and senses. So learning involves acquiring knowledge through experiences like study or being taught. So the next is affect. So affect is the influence for you to be motivated to learn without expecting anything, no, such as greed or price it in return. So the last one is the cognition. So cognition, no, when we see cognition, this is defined activity from which the learning, of course, would be done without any external award or punishment. Or when we see it is a self-motivation or self-effort to learn. So this is why this is also under the intrinsic motivation, no. So that so that's all for today, and thank you, and I hope you learned something about my topic, and the next reporter will be to continue. So that's all. Thank you.
Good day, I am the next reporter, and again, I am Alni Mercado Lunesto. So today I will gonna explain the teacher's personality. So, the teacher as an individual personality is an important element in terms of failures and success of the learner, because teachers are in charge of influencing a child's future and developing him or her into a better person. So in addition to advising students in academics or extracurricular activities. So a teacher entails in his or her student information, morals, tradition, and the difficulties of the current world and now to overcome them. And next is teachers' interaction with the personalities of the pupils. Being taught helps to determine the kind of behavior which emerge from the learning situation. So the relationship between the teacher and the students' personalities influence the type of behavior that develops throughout the learning setting. So pupils love a happy, sympathetic, enthusiastic, and cheerful teacher. So students adore a teacher who is being cheerful, understanding, and many more. So, effective teaching and learning are the result of love for the pupils. So, sympathy for their endurance, tolerance, and a definite capacity for understanding. So, these are the concept map of a good teacher. So, please just read it. And now let's tackle the environmental factors. So, One of the factors that affect the efficiency of learning is the condition in which learning takes place. So, the environment in which learning occurs is one of the elements that impact its effectiveness. So, this includes the classroom, textbook, equipment, school supplies, and other instructional materials. Other variables. There are other variables that influence learning. Could be grouped as follows. So first, individual variables, task variables, and environmental variables. So that I will pass the next discussion to the next reporter because she will be the one who will discuss these other variables.
Hello everyone, my name is Alexandra Lumintak, the next reporter. Individual variables. Individual variables include learning capabilities, interests, perception, experience, endurance, personal factors, and ego. Why is it important to learn theories, principles of learning? With a basic understanding of learning theories, we can create lessons that enhance the learning process. This understanding helps us explain our instructional choices, or the why behind what and how we teach so. Ang theories and principles of learning kay mga idea siya kung makakonstruct mga best way para tuluan ang mga estudyante. Next is task variables. Task variables. The various task variables include the objective, variety of experience, communication, nationally, task overload, and specific intervention. What is task variables in learning? In the classroom learning situation, task variables require reaction by the pupils to demand or suggestion of the teachers, other pupils, or the pupil himself. Method variables are basically those teacher behavior that condition that learning situation in a classroom. So, if kabantay mo, our teacher will give us tasks or mga buhatonon. The reason behind ani is dili lang about para sa ato ang mga tasks. We know diba the experience is the best teacher pod kung ang mga pupils man good ang iyahang cognitive skills, mga thinking abilities, or solving skills. Next is environmental variables. The environmental variables include space, ambience, decorum, environmental, conducive, ergonomics, amenities and local visit and service, quality. What are environment variables in education? The learning environments dramatically affect the learning outcomes of students, schools, open space, and noise. Inappropriate temperature, inefficient light, overcrowded classes, misplaced boards, and inappropriate classroom layout all make up factors that could be confounding variables distracting students in classroom. Environment education is a process that allows individuals to explore environmental issues, engage in problem solving, and takes action to improve the environment in learning. Naagi mga issues di ba parihaan ng daghan kayo ang mga estudyante, unya magsaba pagyud. Madistract ang klase which is dapat siya solusyonan. Unya naapoy mga pupils nga mangayo og military og nindot nga mga classroom. Unya kabantay mo mga elementary student kay daghay mga designs ang ilahang classrooms. It's because ang mga bata ganahan og mga designs og mga attractive or attention kay dili na ba sila ganahan kung dili sila malingaw kung musulod sa eskwelahan. And that's all. Thank you.
Good day everyone, I am Jessa Miloro, and for today's video, I'm going to discuss a short discussion about the factors influence learning. So, first we tackle about miscellaneous influencing. When we say miscellaneous, it is people gathered on, considered together of various type or from different sources in Tagalog. This is what we call ganing sari-sari, or mga halo-halong mga naka-influensya. So, first, we have readiness to learn. Second is motivation. Third is reinforcement. When we say readiness to learn, it is an ability of student to take new information. Kung handa ba silang matuto or hindi. Because we know naman if ang student have this readiness to learn, marami silang alam at marami silang malalaman pa because of their curiosity. So second, we have motivation, the desire to act in service of goal, If the student is motivated or nasiyay mindset nga inig mahuman ko ani nga school year daghay mga opportunity nga mabot sa ko like mga trabaho with my degree. Mao na siya mo na daghay mga opportunity jud once nga makahuman ka mao nang makamotivate sa imo. So last is reinforcement. So some of reinforcement for them is ang ilahang mga family. That the first thing why student wants to graduate. Kay muna ang ilahang pampalakas ng loob. Their family or parents. So let's proceed to the next factors, According to Miss Hattie, there are 6 factors influencing learning. First is the child, the home, school, curricula, teachers, and lastly is approaches to learning. So let's talk first about the child. Child is the contribution that the child brings to each or her own learning, ability to build a sense of self from engagement in learning, prior knowledge of learning, and expectation. So next we have the home. Influences from home that affects student learning, parental knowledge of the language of schooling, parental expectation, and learning goals for their child. Next, we have school. So the school can influence learning in the following ways. The general climate of the classroom, such as providing a safe, caring environment and welcoming errors. So next, the many prior influences that come into play. So next is the curricula. The curriculum can influence the student learning by providing strategies that are planned, focused, and having active programs that teach specific skills with deeper understanding. The another one is developing units that aim for the best balance of surface and deep understanding. Next is teacher. Contribution of teacher include engaging all students, fostering efforts, a focus on teacher clarity and articulating specific expectation, teacher openness, classroom climate, and general warmness. And lastly is teaching approaches. Aspect of teaching approaches that influence student learning, paying attention to learning intentions and success criteria, Settings challenges tasks, providing multiple opportunities for deliberative practice. Those are the 6 factors influence learning from Hati 2009. So next is principle of learning. First, focusing. Second, organization, repetition, association, learning control, imitation, active participation, motivation, individual style, and spacing. So, focusing means a student must be focused on the lesson or what the teacher talking about. So, next is organization. Mamaorigin sila sa communication. As you communicate, as you nakipag-organize ka to other, makakreate siya og communicate, and at the same time, makakreate po siya og interrelationship because of the bonding na nakreate ninyo as nakikipag-organize ka to other person. Next, repetition, association, learning control, imitation. Sabotable naman siya. And active participation, motivation, matong gingon kaina na kung saan nag-motivate sa imo to maging mahuman nga school year kung sa kaka-estudyante. So, next is individual style, Nadyo tayo iya-iya nga style sa ato ang kaugalingon kay bisan paganig mga kambal is dili jud sila magkapareho og mga gusto. Ikaw kanay imong style astig-astig lang kani siya kanay yung style is kikay-kikay. Nadyo tayo lahi-lahi nga style. And lastly is spacing. So, I think that's the end of my topic. Thank you and God bless.
Good afternoon everyone. My name is Jesse Boy M. Nicor, and we're going to discuss the assigned topic of me about laws of learning. Okay. So Edward Thorndike. Edward Lee Thorndike, 1898, is an professor of American psychology and a famous psychology also for his work on learning theory that lead to the development of operant conditioning within behaviorism. Okay, so this is the laws that he kuan. So primary laws of learning, the law of readiness, law of exercise, and law of effect. So secondary laws of learning, the law of primacy, law of intensity, law of recency, and other subordinating laws. Okay, first is the primary laws of learning. Okay, the law of readiness, the degree of preparedness and eagerness to learn, and law of action tendency, the individuals learn best when they are ready to learn, and they will not learn much if they see no reason for learning. So the law of readiness is about the preparedness and eagerness of the student to learn. So dapat we put sense or goal that our student possess at the end of the lesson. Okay, the educational implication of the law of readiness. So the teacher should arouse curiosity for learning so that the pupils feel ready to imbibe the new experiences. And the teacher should, before taking up the new lesson, arouse the interest and desire of the students to learn. So the educational application of law of readiness is the teacher should think an effective strategy that awaken the interest of the student to learn. Okay, the law of exercise. Things that are most often repeated are best remembered. So law of use and disuse. Law of use. The learning are strengthened with repeated trial or practice. Law of disuse. Learning are awakened when trial or practice is discontinued. So the law of exercise is example ani. So when you done discussing, then you are going to outline or summarize the important details on the discussion, and then um, and see it again to the class after you ask a question to the students about what you have been discussing. So you are going to repeat or summarize after you discuss so that the students will makasabot sila or makalearn sila kung unsa ang imuhang gi-discuss. So ilang masulod sa ilang huna-huna, and that is the law of exercise. It is or the things that most remembered when it is repeated. Okay, so educational implication of law of exercise. So the teacher should provide different opportunities for learners to practice or repeat the task, like recall, manual drill, review, and etc. So the teacher should have constant practice in what has one been learned. Delayed use or long disuse may cause forgetfulness. So the educational implication here is you need to recall or review, because in law of exercise, the best thing that student learn is the things that are often repeated, which is to recall, manual drill, and review. So in that way, the student will learn because you are going to repeat what was discussed yesterday. Okay, law of effect. So learning is strengthened when it is accompanied by a pleasant or satisfying feeling. So learning is weakened when it is associated with an unpleasant feeling. So the emotional state of the learner affect the learning. So the law of effect is it is about the learning will depend on the student emotional state. Okay, so educational implication of law of effect. So as a failure is accompanied by a discouraging emotional state, it should be avoided. So reward and recognition play a great role in encouraging the pupil. Punishments should be avoided as far as possible. Punishment produces a negative effect and it causes discouragement. So the educational implication of the law of effect is dapat we always recognize the students even mali ang iyang gi-answer or layo ang iyang tubag sa pangutana nimo. So you need to still recognize them, like kanang ingnan nimo og okay, you have the point even though mali ang iyang answer, ingnan nimo still very good kay nag-participate. So in that way, we encourage them instead og ingnan nimo nga mali imong answer. So wrong na siya kay ma-hurt ang ilang feelings. So dapat we recognize them para ma-encourage sila nga or ma-encourage sila sunod nga mo answer pero dapat tama na, and og explainan gyud nimo og discussan nimo og tarong so that they learn maora na sila. And that's the end of my part in reporting. Salamat.
Good day, everyone. My name is Jean Rose A. Salvador, and today I am going to tackle about the secondary laws of learning. Number 1 is law of primacy. Learning that takes place in the beginning is the best and lasting. So, when we say law of primacy, mauni siya ang una nga atong ma-learn o dili nato dali-dali og kalimtan. Kay makatatak ni siya sa atoang huna-huna kay tungod mao ni siya ang atong pinakauna nga natun-an. So, the next definition of law of primacy is learning should be done correctly for the first time since it is difficult to unlearn or change an incorrectly learned material. As a future educator, obligation nato nga atong tun-an ang atong lesson nga i-teach sa atoang mga students kay para maka-make sure ta nga tama ang atoang gitudlo sa ilaha. So, dili nato sila mahatagan og chance nga mag-doubt sa atoa kay tama man ang atong explanations or gitudlo sa mga students nato. Kay for example og dili ta magtuon sa ato ang lesson nga i-teach sa atong students, nay possibility nga mamali ta og explain sa ilaha. So, dili man pwede nga kita nga teachers pag magkamali ta mo explain ta sa atong students nga, ay students, sorry kay namali ko og explain sa inyo atong niagi, mali da ito akong ingon. Kay pagkasunod ana nga magtudlo ka sa ilaha, murag hatagan na nimo sila chance nga mag-doubt sa imuha, like mukaingon sila sa ilang kaugalingon nga, ay basin mali na pud ni ang itudlo ni ma'am, murag di na sila ganahan maminaw kay murag mawad-an na pud sila og salig nga magtuo sa imuha. So that's why gina-encourage ta as a future educator nga atong yungtun-an ang lesson nga atong i-teach sa atong students. Next is educational implications. The learning on the first day is most vivid and strong. Mao to akong na-tackle gaina nga ang pinakauna nga learning nga ma-come up sa students gikan sa teacher is mostly dili gyud to nila madali-dali og kalimtan ug mas mutatakto sa ilahang huna-huna at the same time matatak sa ilahang kasing-kasing. For the instructor, this means that what they teach the first time must be correct. Kinahanglan yun nga kung unsa ang atong i-teach sa atong students is i-make sure nato nga tama. Since kita nga future educators, we all know that we are the source of knowledge. So, kinahanglan yun og importante nga ang atong i-teach sa ato ang students is correct. Og ato na siyang i-make sure permanente. Next is law of recency. Things most recently learned are best remembered, while the things learned some time ago are remembered with more difficulty. Usually baya, ang mga recently na topic or lesson nga atong natun-an is mao ang atong madumduman kumpara sa mga lesson sa niagi or katong mga dugay-dugay na nga mga lesson nga gi-tackle sa atua. Frequent review and summarization help fix in the mind the material covered. So, mao na ang ginabuhat sa mga teachers ug kinahanglan pud nato nga ma-learn nga buhaton. So, dako gyud og tabang ang review and summarization pagkahuman sa topic or example ang teacher ang iyang gi-tackle kagahapon is iyang balikan og tackle karon nga adlaw kay para ma-refresh ang hunahuna sa mga bata. Dako gid kaayo tabang ang review and summarization nga ginabuhat sa mga teachers nga ato pong dapat nga tun-an. As a future educator, kinahanglan nga atong i-summarize or i-review ang mga topics nga atong gitackle sa mga niaging adlaw kay para dili madali-dalig kalimtan sa atong mga students o para ma-refresh sa ilang huna-huna ang mga topic na atong tackle sa mga niaging adlaw. Next is educational implications. Instructors recognize the law of recency when they plan lesson summary or a conclusion of the lecture. No, mao na akong naingon gaina nga pagkahuman sa lesson sa teacher nga iyahang gi-teach sa iyang students, ang conclusion is dili gyud na mawala or ang summary sa lesson nga iyahang gitudlo sa iyang students kay para ang mga students is dili dali-dali nga makalimot. Number 3 is law of intensity. The law of intensity states that it is the stimulus or experience is real, the more likely there is so be change in behavior or learning. A vivid, dramatic, or exciting learning experience teaches more than a routine or boring experience. kung magtudlo ang teacher, kabantay mo nga naa sila'y i-insert nga based sa ilahang experience kay dira man mas maka-relate ang mga students kay tungod tinuod nga nahitabo sa teacher ang iyahang gitakal nga lesson ug dili pod ingon nga boring ang lesson. We also must remember when we are teaching, we need also to insert some of experience nato sa atong kinabuhi sa topic na atong tackle sa atong students or atong teach sa atoang students kay para mas makarelate ang atoang students. Educational implications. A learner will learn more from the real thing than from a substitute. Demonstrations, keys, and models do much intensify the learning experience or learning. Mas matututo talaga ang iyong mga mag-aaral when you base your topic in a real-life situation or ihahalin tulad mo sa mga katotohanang bagay ang mga lesson na iyong ituturo sa kanila kaysa sa mga bagay na walang katotohanan. So, those are the secondary laws of learning. Number 1 is law of primacy. Number 2 is law of recency. And the third one is law of intensity. That's all. Thank you for listening and God bless.
Hello everyone, my name is Nicole Angela Loses from BEd 1B and I will be discussing the 5 subordinate laws of learning. But before I discuss the 5 subordinate laws of learning, I will be going to define first what is subordinate laws of learning. Thorndike was one of the early psychologists who tried to interpret learning by connecting links or linking stimuli and responses. He saw that the most distinctive forms of science in man and animal alike is learning by trial and error. So this type of learning is evident when the learner encounters a problematic situation that must be solved and overcome to a goal. So Thorndike has explained 3 laws of learning called primary laws. Pero he has also formed subsidiary laws in connection with this trial and error learning theory, which is ang 5 subordinate laws na akong i-discuss karon. So, first is the law of multiple response. Confronted with a new situation, the learner responds in a variety of ways, arriving at the correct response. So, it means that when a response fails to elicit a desired effect, the learner will try with new responses until the goal is reached. Nga, if ma-fail ang learner sa iyang response, then ang learner will mag-try pod og another response until nga makuha na niya ang goal nga response. Next is trial and error. So, trial and error is isa ni siya ka type of learning in which the organism successively tries various responses in situation or seemingly random until nga successful ang pag-achieve sa desired nga goal. Also, learning by selection of the successful variant accordingly with no ready-made solution of the problem available para sa usa ka learner. So, diha na siya maka-adapt og method of trial and error. So, next is, if the individual wants to solve a puzzle, he is to try in different ways rather than mechanically persisting in the same way. So, if ang individual is gusto mag-solve og puzzle, then he or she is makatry jud og different nga mga ways rather than magbalik-balik siya og asa siya dapit na mali. So, mag-try na lang siya og lahi nga ways aron ma-solve jud niya ang isa ka puzzle. Then the second is law of set attitude. So learning is guided by a total set of attitude of the learner, which determine not only what the learner will do, but what will satisfy him or her. So learner has set of attitude in learning. Ang mga learner is lahi sila og gusto matun-an, which determines not will the learner will do. Pero dapat masatisfied pod sila. So the learner performs the task well if he has his attitude set in the task. So, ang isa ka learner is maka-perform siya og different ka mga task if kibali ka nang willing jud siya mobuhat ana nga task nga naa siya feelings, behavior og knowledge para ma-solve na nga task. Also, mental set or positive attitude is important in any learning. So, third is law of analogy and simulation. According to this law, the individual makes use of old experiences or acquisitions while learning a new situation. There is a tendency to utilize common elements in the new situation as existed on a similar past situation. So according to this law, it is individual learners is maka-use og old nga mga experiences or acquisitions while naga-learn siya og new nga mga situation. So naapoy tendency nga ang isa ka learner is maka-utilize og common elements in every situation as existed in a similar past situation. So in whole, it means nga comparing a new situation to the previously learned one and the giving a response by analogy. So fourth is the law of associative shifting. According to this law, we may get a response of which a learner is capable associated with any other situation which he is sensitive. So this law, as a teacher, we may get a response of which ang learning is capable nga associated with any other situation nga ang learner is sensitive og sometimes ang reaction pod to a certain stimulus might shift to a different one. Sometimes a reaction to certain stimulus might shift to different one. So in addition, this is nothing but shifting of the response to a new situation, which is similar to the earlier one because the fundamental notion is that if a response can keep intact through a series of changes in stimulating situation, it may finally be given to a new situation. So the last law is the prepotency of elements. So according to this law, the learner reacts selectively to the important in the situation and neglects the other features or elements which may be irrelevant. So it means that this law states that the learner is able to react in a selected way, but only to the salient elements of the problem and not for other unimportant elements. So that's the end of my discussion.